Dear participants, our event starts now, right on time. So first of all, thank you for your time. Welcome to join our event. So the event is Your Career in Addressing Climate Change with UNFCCC and UNEP. So first of all, my name is Xiaoyin Deng. I am the Human Resources Officer from UNFCCC. But here I'm temporarily reassigned to SB Chair team to support COP29. So I hope all of you find the room easily to hear because the event great. I see people nodding. Good. I know it's a big venue, so when I arrived 14 days ago, it's a very difficult to find my way. Of course, you have all the informations and then volunteer. But you still need volunteer to guide you where the way to go to. And now here we are. We are actually providing information and guide you, but not on the physical path to the venue, but on your career path. Okay, so before I start, let me ask you a few questions first. How many of you have applied a job in the UN? You try to. Okay, I see quite a lot of hands. Even see more a volunteer, great. How many of you have applied job in UNFCCC or UNEP? Okay, a lot, great. And how many of you are interested to join us? Almost all of you, great. Okay, so you are in the right place. Okay, so now let me introduce our speakers and guests for their time to join us. First of all, we have Mireille Atala with us, and then Chief of Adaptation and Resilience Branch, Climate Change Division of UNEP. And we also have Sorora as Human Resource Officer of UNEP. She's joining us online. You can see her, right? Yes. And also online, we have Mr. Masaharu Jessica Kumoto, Head of Human Resource Management of UNFCCC. And also Mr. Peter Carmen, Team Lead of Talent Management and Workforce Planning Unit in UNFCCC. They will also be giving opening remark and introducing the career in UNFCCC to you. And of course, we also have our HR colleagues, Sylvia and Anthony, here from UNFCCC. They are both like temporarily reassigned to support other COP tasks. So after the speak of career of UNFCCC and UNEP, you'll be able to raise a hand and ask questions or communicate with our speakers. So without further delay, now I would like to give the floor to Jessie for the opening remark. And then, so our HR colleague will also stay here after the event in case you want to talk to us one-to-one. So now I would like to give the floor to Jessie.
Great. Thank you very much, Xiaoyin, and good afternoon, colleagues. I hope all of you are doing well, staying warm, staying healthy in Baku. And I'm very happy that to see many people already in that room, the big room, as Xiaoyin was talking about. Thank you very much for coming to this session. We're very happy to have you here. And first of all, thank you to my team at UNFCCC, Xiaoyin, Peter, and all the team, and also UNEP colleagues for this incredible opportunity. Because as part of the survey, as Xiaoyin had done, many of you may had applied to vacancies at UNFCCC or UNEP, and perhaps have seen the applying, or let's say the submitting your job applications in the UN as somewhat of a mystery. And so we're hoping to demystify that to you and to share with you what it means to work at UNFCCC Secretariat or UNEP or within the UN Common System, what you can expect, but what is it in it for you once you are selected and you join UNFCCC, UNEP, or the UN Secretariat, UN system. I think probably some of the common messages that you have been hearing so far at this year's COP is about resilience, setting up a new target and a new goal. And I think that really resonates with a lot of people that are working not only at UNFCCC UNEP or within the UN Common System. So we're hoping that after you submit your application and you are going to be successful in one of your application and you join one of our organizations, you'll get to be part of that positive change, I think, that a lot of people have been talking about at this year's COP. Personally speaking, I am somebody who started my career at UNFCCC about 13 years ago. I was here for about 2 years, and I went to work in 5 other UN organizations. And recently, I rejoined. So it's been a very exciting welcome home experience. And I think when people ask me, what is it great about working at the UNFCCC Secretariat, I say, you're talking to somebody who came back after years and years. So I think that I hope that that speaks a volume in terms of what it means to be part of the not only the UNFCCC Secretariat, but the bigger UN Common System teams. So we hope to, like I said, demystify all the questions that you have. Hopefully, get your interest in terms of what career opportunities might be available for you. And again, this room is extremely open opportunity to raise any questions. We're very happy to address all the questions you have. And if not, we would like to remain the communication open for you to be able to address all the questions so that you see that career path, potential career path in one of our organizations or within the larger context of the UN system. So again, welcome and thanks to my team and thanks to all the colleagues for today's session. And I hope we will be seeing you in one of our organizations very, very soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse. Okay, so 13 years is not the longest. We have so many colleagues, 20 or more. So, and also we have something new as well. And then we are keep attracting diverse talent. In order to how to apply and more information, now Peter is going to present the UNFCCC's career. Peter, you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Xiaoyin and Jesse, for that wonderful introduction. Can I use this?
Technicians, colleagues, please help us put the presentation. Thank you.
Can you see my presentation?
Yes, now we can see.
Great. So this is a bit easier. So yes, thank you very much for joining. My name is Peter. I'm the Talent Management Team Lead at the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change Secretariat, which from now on, I am just going to call UNFCCC. And I only joined a little more than a year ago, so I'm fairly new. But in the coming 20 minutes, I would like to introduce to you UNFCCC, not just as the COP organizing body, but also as an employer. So as Xiaoyin has already shown us that some people have already applied for a job here. Some people have not. For those who have already applied, some things that I'm going to tell you in this presentation, you might already know, but hang on. At the end of the presentation, I will give some concrete tips on how to enhance your application and to make it really stand out. But first, let me give you a brief introduction on the organization. So UNFCCC, also known as UN Climate Change, we are part of the United Nations, and we are dedicated to supporting the world's response to the climate crisis. We're established in 1992 and are based in Bonn, Germany. We have 198 member states. And we're the founding treaty of the climate negotiations that led to both the 2015 Paris Agreement and the 1997 Kyoto Protocol. And let me show you a little bit about our organizational structure. So we are headquartered in Bonn, as I said, but we also have a regional presence. So we have 6 regional collaboration centers in Bangkok, Dubai, Kampala, Lomé, Panama, and St. George. And the purpose of these regional collaboration centers is to support national climate action. And we do that through capacity building, technical assistance, and strategic networking. And they're small, relatively small offices but have a very important role, for example, organizing the regional climate weeks. So on the other side of the slide, you'll see our structure of the organization with all the divisions. And this gives you a flavor of the different thematic areas that we work in, but it also then gives you an overview of the thematic areas we offer job opportunities in. So I will go into a bit more detail later on that, but here you can have a look on, these are the thematic areas that we operate and we deal with. And for this, you can also find on our of course, UNFCCC.int page. Then I'd like to go into our workforce very briefly to give you sort of a flavor of the size of our organization. So we have 443 staff members at the moment from over 100 different countries. So we're very proud of this cultural diversity in our organization. And what we're also very proud of is the gender diversity within UNFCCC. So we have, as you can see, overall 56% female staff, but at the senior management level, we have 46%. Then we also have 182 in 2023, 182 active consultants and individual contractors. And 137 interns, because we run a very successful internship program. So as I, in the previous slide, briefly already touched on the individual contractors, or the different modalities we have. Here, I would like to give you an overview of these modalities. This is in a nutshell. I want to say right away, more information is available on our internet page, unfccc.int. But just to give you a little bit of an overview, so that when you do see our roles, our vacancies, that you actually know a little bit what international staff, what consultancy, or what a junior professional officer means. So here in the blue, you see our staff positions. We have international and local staff positions. Both come as well in a fixed term and a temporary modality. But the main difference between international and local is, in this case, that the international positions come with expat benefits, such as that we support internationally recruited staff in coming to Bonn, traveling to Bonn, moving to Bonn with their families. And for example, we provide assistance with education grants. So that's a benefit that internationally recruited staff have who have children that go to school, and we subsidize partially tuition fees. So for local staff, we require, when looking at local vacancies, we require a valid work permit for Germany. So do keep that in mind when you're looking at local positions, that unfortunately for those positions, we cannot support you in moving to Bonn or with visas. So on in the red, you see consultants and individual contractors. These positions are temporary in nature, project-based, and therefore come also with a different set of benefits. Then at UNFCCC, we strongly believe in building and developing talent, which is why we have specific opportunities and programs for young professionals. One of them is the Junior Professional Officer Program. So these are specific positions that are sponsored by member states and are usually only open to nationals from these member states. And these are positions that often require 0 to 2 years of work experience, and they are published on our website, on our employment page. Then we have the fellowship program, which is for early and mid-career professionals for nationals from developing countries. And we run, as I said, an internship program for students enrolled in either a bachelor's or a master's program. The last one is the UN volunteers. So this is fairly new to us. So we currently are working on an agreement with UN volunteers, which we hope to finalize very soon. And we hope to be able to publish the first UN volunteers vacancies in early 2025. So we hope very soon to be welcoming UN volunteers to our organization. And for more detailed information on these different kinds of employment opportunities, again, please go to unfccc.int. And yeah, you will find more detailed information there on the specifics, because there's a lot more to this than I was able to brief you on. Then, as Jesse already alluded to, so what's in it for you? What can we offer as UNFCCC to our staff? So for a small organization, we are very proud that we're able to offer a generous amount of opportunities for staff to grow and develop from the moment they come on board. So in terms of learning and development, that means that staff members can request up to 8 days a year of learning and development leave, but also staff can request financial support for training and other learning opportunities. And as you maybe see now, or well, not knowingly, but at COP, there are a lot of staff members, UNFCCC staff members that are reassigned, like, for example, Xiaoyin right now. So we have a program where all staff at UNFCCC, no matter if you are working close to the COP or not, you can apply for an opportunity to support at COP and be reassigned and released from your regular day-to-day responsibilities. So this is an excellent opportunity for staff members to be exposed and to develop and yeah, to see what the UNFCCC is all about, basically. So that's a really popular program for staff members that is available to all staff members. And then we have secondments to regional collaboration centers. So I already briefly mentioned our RCCs, and all roles at RCCs are rotational. So that means that up to 2 years, staff members can be seconded to these regional collaboration centers, and again, have an amazing opportunity to develop and to be exposed to different regions and different work, basically. So again, an excellent opportunity for development. Then, yeah, a statistic that I want to share with you, which we're very proud of, is that over the past 3 years, we've seen about 90 staff members getting promoted. So that is a rate of around 30% of staff, which we believe says something about that. We help staff grow, but also that people want to stay with us. So we're very happy and proud of this figure. Moving on to the next slide. So we are an international organization, and we recruit people from all over the world who then move to Bonn to take up their new roles. And we often get questions about whether or how we support them and their families during employment and the relocation. So the answer is yes, we provide support. And I would like to highlight a few key benefits that we offer. The first one being a competitive salary, or at least we believe it's a competitive salary. And we follow the UN salary scale in our remuneration. Then second, the relocation support. So we provide financial support for internationally recruited staff to relocate to Bonn. We also offer family allowances, such as education grant, which I already mentioned before, to support internationally recruited staff in paying for school fees for their children. We have holidays. We have 10 public holidays a year, plus we offer annual leave to all staff. And for internationally recruited staff, we also offer home leave to support them to spend time at home in their home countries. Then in terms of well-being, we have a flexible working policy, which is very popular. We have a very generous, flexible working policy that allows for working remotely, both from Bonn and from outside Bonn. So, for example, For outside of Bonn, staff members can request up to 30 days a year. And flexible working or remote working from within the duty station, so from Bonn, is up to 3 days a week. So that's a very popular policy and arrangement in our organization. And last, we have a very active staff association that organizes social events and gatherings. And as you can see on the slide, maybe I hope it's big enough, but you see the photo in the middle is our executive secretary playing a game of football with staff in front of the building. So that was a very popular afternoon. But yeah, no, our staff association organizes a lot of events that are also very popular. So moving to the next slide, which I think is this is something useful for everyone who has or is thinking of applying to a role at UNFCCC. So how does the recruitment process work? And again, for some of you who have already applied, you might be aware of some of these steps. For those of you who have not applied yet and you see on the slide already the average time, you might be a little bit shocked. Yes, our average time to recruit is 5 to 6 months between the moment of advertising and the moment of onboarding, which is very, very long. But let me take you through the steps and explain or try to explain a little bit on what is involved and why things there's a lot of checks and balances that make it take this long. So let's start at the searching for job openings. So once you've found a role that matches your strengths and aspirations, and I really want to emphasize that bit, matches your strengths and aspirations, because we see some candidates who apply seemingly maybe randomly to a lot of different roles that don't really necessarily match their strengths, and therefore get a bit lost. So make sure your applications are focused when you apply to our roles, and also when you start applying or when you're filling out the application form, be aware that our application forms are lengthy. For those of you who have already applied to us or to another UN agency, you probably know that it takes a lot of time to submit an application, and I highly encourage you to take the time to do this. Don't do this in the last minute or the last hour. Another tip that I would like to give you is to focus on your key achievements. So we see a lot of candidates who copy paste basically their job description from the previous or current roles that they hold, which is to some level useful, but it doesn't really say much about what you've achieved, what you've contributed. So therefore, focus mostly on that. It's okay to say what you're asked to do in your current role, your previous roles, but emphasize what you have achieved and the difference you made. So really take time to do this and submit. Once you submit, there's the process of screening. So all applications are evaluated by the HR team as well as the hiring manager based on the requirements in the vacancy announcement. And the outcome of this process is a long list of applicants. And the people who pass this stage are then invited to an assessment stage. And the assessment stage could take different forms. It could be a written examination. It could be a presentation. It could be, it could be series of technical questions, an essay, many things. And it all depends on the role. But do be as prepared as you can for this, in the sense, know the vacancy announcement, and be aware of. You can also ask, if to the hiring manager or to the HR team, if what it is about, and to prepare as much as possible for this. And those who pass this will be invited to an interview, and it will be a competency-based interview. And competency-based interviews use questions which aim to find out how you have used specific skills in your previous experience. So it's very important to prepare well for this stage, which you can do by coming up with different examples from your experience that show what you have achieved and how you've achieved it. So I will give you a little bit more, I will tell a little bit more about this later on. And the final stage for those who pass the interview stage is the reference check, which consists of a background check of your education credentials and references from previous jobs you held. And like I said, the average total time is 5 to 6 months from advertising to onboarding. And as you now maybe understand, this is due to the many steps that are involved and the different checks and balances that are required. So, long story, I hope you're still with me. I want to give you a few more tips for applicants before I close. So again, most of this I've already said, but these are important things that I just want to reiterate. The first, choose the right role. As I mentioned, apply to the roles that are suited to your strengths and aspirations and be focused in your application. Then take time to prepare your application and highlight achievements. So make sure you take enough time and when describing past experiences, really focus on what you have accomplished and achieved as opposed to what you do on a daily basis. And then for the assessments, that's both the competency-based interview and potentially a written exam. If you are invited for example, an interview, train for competency-based interviewing techniques, and prepare a range of real-life examples of your accomplishments. There's a lot of also resources on this online. So yeah, Google it a little bit. There's plenty of stuff about this, but do prepare. A lot of people think, I know what I've done, I know my CV, but do really prepare for this. And then I would like to close with, again, mentioning our website, UNFCCC.int, and go to employment or use the QR code on the screen. And I'd like to thank you for your attention. And there's a Q&A after the second presentation, so you can feel free to ask me anything. But I would also like to again mention what Xiaoyan already said, that there are HR colleagues in the room, and maybe other UNFCCC staff. So also feel free to roam around and to ask people about their experience and be inspired. So thank you very much, and back to Xiaoyan.
Thank you, Peter, for keeping the time very well. So then we have chance to ask one questions before we moving to UNEP career. Anyone want to take the chance to ask one question? Please, yes. The mic is coming to you.
What's the most rewarding part of your career at UNFCCC?
Thank you. Peter, are you ready for these questions?
Oh, definitely. For me, the most rewarding, well, actually, there's two things, because I do, for me, it's the mandate. So it's working for a cause, like in HR, which is not directly involved, of course, in the mandate. But for me, working towards a mandate that is, it's about us all and about our futures is incredibly motivating. And also a little bit from, the HR person in me, what I find on a daily basis really motivating is working with people from all over the world. And this cultural diversity is something that I really enjoy, and that is really inspiring.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question and thank you for the answers. So if you have more questions coming, so we will still have a lot of chance. Okay, great. We took more questions. We said we have one question between the session. So please keep your question and then we will start the UNEP presentation. I hope that's okay. Thank you. So now I give the floor to Mireille to introducing UNEP career. So let's also have the slide on the screen, please. You have the floor, Mireille.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to everyone. It's a really great pleasure to be here. I don't usually like talking about myself, but I was asked to, so I will try to as best as I can. I'm not sure this is my first slide, though. Can we, would you mind?
Move to the second presentation, please.
Second presentation, please. But anyway, so I've been asked to speak about my career path to give a little bit of a sense of how I got to where I am. I currently am I work for UNEP. I've joined UNEP 3 years ago. And I am Director of Adaptation and Resilience at UNEP's Climate Change Division, which is the most recent division. There we are. It's the most recent division that was created in UNEP back in February this year. Maybe I will start from the beginning. I started as working with civil society organizations and with private consultancy firms doing environmental impact assessments and doing also bird surveys to identify important bird areas in the country and help establish those. After that, I joined the Ministry of Environment, working with the Protected Areas Department of the Ministry of Environment of my country. I'm Lebanese. And following this, I joined, so that was after 5 years, 6 years working between NGOs and the ministry, I joined the UN, primarily with the UNDP, working as regional technical advisor, helping with designing projects for GEF for the Global Environment Facility on biodiversity and land degradation. That I did that job for about 7 years, working across the Middle East and North Africa region, then East African region, then West Africa. So quite a bit of relocation and regional movement, I would say. After that, I was recruited by the Ministry of Finance of the Democratic Republic. No, after that, I moved to Geneva, where after COP, the Bali COP in 2008, 2007. Well, 2007 was the COP, 2008 was the establishment of the UN RED program, 2007 was the RED decision under the COP, and 2008, 3 agencies, UNDP, FAO, and UNEP, established something called the UN RED program, and I joined the Secretariat of that program shortly after to support tropical forest countries with doing readiness, that is the national RED strategies, the forest reference emission levels, the safeguard information systems. And then after that, I moved to the DRC, to Kinshasa, working with the Minister of Finance and supporting the Ministry of Finance in running their national RED fund. And it was after that that I joined, that I moved to Nairobi and joined UNEP, first in the Ecosystems Division, and then now in the Climate Change Division. So I think that maybe my message is a career with the UN will lead you possibly to 20 years on the job, but also possibly take you around the world. Require that you move quite a bit, that you have agility in terms of where you want to be, your location, and what you want to do. What I have learned as well is that I've accumulated and acquired skills along the way that from, my education background, I'm an agriculture engineer by background, and then, well, maybe like many of you, I will disclose when I graduated was in 1997. So at the time in Lebanon, we did not have formal education in environment-related topics. So that is why I chose to go to be an agriculture engineer. And then I specialized in land use planning, and then I went for a master's in environmental policies and strategies. So depending on the level and the grade that you are targeting in terms of your position, I think sometimes you will have to work around, sometimes it may not match your education background. And I would really encourage you in your application, I think, as Jesse is his name, as Jesse mentioned earlier, to really look at the specifics of the job description, to look at the specifics, to be very targeted in the first part of the application is very much about what you have done and how you meet the job requirements. So really tailor your application to that so that you are retained. I think the other thing is we probably live in a very mobile world, and sometimes it helps to start with applying for positions outside of your own country, or outside of those very highly sought after duty stations. So things like Bonn, Paris, Copenhagen will generate some 600, 700, if not more, applications per position. Positions outside of those duty stations will draw less applications, and then maybe your profile will have higher chances of being picked up. So that would be one of my recommendations as well. Next. I can't move to the next one. There we are. So in terms of profile of the organization, sorry, I'm going to follow on my screen. In terms of profile of the organization, here you can see on this slide both the gender and the regional representation of professional staff positions. So you may know we have in the UN system two different types of positions, what we call P staff, that's the professional technical positions, and then we have G staff, this is more administrative, operational, and finance related positions. And here you can see that we've got very limited, we've got only 6% of our professional positions come from Eastern Europe, some 22% from Asia Pacific. I count as Asia Pacific, even though my country is in the Middle East, but that's the regional grouping that we have. 19% are from Africa, and only 10% are from Latin America and the Caribbean, and 43% are from Western Europe and other groups. And similarly, on gender of staff positions, we have 62% of UNEP staff are female and 38% are male. That's not because it's only females that apply to our positions, but it's also because there's two things. One, what we've noticed actually that we have a higher number of females applying to positions in the sphere of environment, whereas we have more male applicants when it's in engineering or that type of position. The other thing is that UNEP has actually done a very intentional effort at rebalancing. We didn't have that kind of balance before. It was quite the opposite with very limited numbers of females. We did a really intentional effort of drawing women into UNEP, and as you can see, we have succeeded. Next slide, please. If you can move the slides for me. I don't know why this is not. It's buzzing, so maybe the battery. Okay, thank you. So in terms of profile of the organization, we have When you're looking for a job in UNEP, you will see we have a lot of positions that are opened as program management, and this is the top functional position. Then 14% in administration and 9% in finance and budget. Now, I would like to caveat that because program management, because UNEP is under the UN Secretariat, we follow the job profiles of the UN Secretariat, and this is something that we are working on right now, is to shift away from this very odd, title of program management officer towards some more specifics like climate specialist or natural resource management specialist or environmental lawyer, environmental economist, climate finance specialist. So we're working with the UN Secretariat HR to move away from this. So if you see a position that is advertised as program management officer, I would really, really insist that you open the job description and that you read it in detail so that you know what it's about. At this stage, it's a little bit opaque. It's program management officer, doesn't say anything to anyone. So please open them up. We have 8 divisions, 8 substantive divisions. Climate change is the one that I work with. We have a division on ecosystems management, a division that works on pollution and waste that is entitled Industry and Economy Division. We have a governance division that works a lot on international and environmental law. We have a division on early warning and assessments. That's everything that is related to scientific assessments. I don't know how many of you read the emissions gap report, adaptation gap report, or the global environmental outlook. That's the division that produces those reports. We host 7 multilateral agreements, including not excluding actually the Convention on Climate Change, but we do host the Convention on Biological Diversity, the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species, the Convention on Migratory Species, and so we also do the hiring for those conventions. We have 6 regional offices, one in Panama, one in Bangkok, one in Geneva. And then we have some sub-regional offices, for example, in Samoa for Pacific Islands, in Uruguay for the Southern Cone, and in Côte d'Ivoire for West and Central Africa. So these are our top 3 duty stations. 43% of our staff is based in Nairobi. This is where I live and work. Really encourage everyone to open up those positions and to apply for them. Nairobi is a great duty station. If you recall from my previous slide, we had only 10% of our staff from Latin America and the Caribbean. Unfortunately, air connections are very poor between Latin America and Africa, and so that's why we have very, very few of Latin America and Caribbean applicants to Nairobi. They're mostly applying to the positions in Panama or in Uruguay. And on average, we publish around 22 to 23 job openings, and that's an average between January to October 2024. Currently, we have 36 staff job openings. So if you're interested in any of those, also let me know. So I think that this has been covered for the most. Sorry. Yes, this has been covered for the most by the previous speaker, by Jessie. If her name's Peter. Peter, sorry, Peter. I don't know why I'm stuck with Jessie. The first one is Jessie. Okay, so most of this has been covered by Jessie, by Peter, but I will give a few more tips. One of the requirements is fluency in English. I had a fantastic applicant who was from Vietnam, who happened to be a woman. Now, for fluency in English, you have to take 4 on spoken, on read, on written, and on for read, written, and what's the 4th one? Speaking. Now, she picked 3 on speaking because she thought she has an accent. Do not pick 3 on speaking if you have an accent. If you speak it fluently enough, you pick the 4. If you read it fluently enough, you pick the 4. If you write it fluently enough, you pick the 4. You do not need to be a native English speaker to be fluent in English. That's my first message. Second is, as I mentioned, really look at the job description and at what is expected and tailor. So at the beginning of your application in Inspira, you will have a certain set of questions that you will have to respond to. Please make sure that the way you respond to these questions corresponds to your PHP, but also corresponds to the job description. Third is, don't be afraid, depending on the type of position that you're applying for. If it's a full-time position, don't be afraid that it's you're I don't know, you're Egyptian and you're applying for a position in Bangkok, because we will arrange for the work permits, we will arrange for the relocation. For consultants, we don't do that. But for other staff positions, we do so. So don't be blocked by the fact that maybe you're worried about the work permit or you're worried that you're going to be traveling far. Those are things that we do support. You have to be ready for potential assessments. Sometimes we will do a written test that will be a technical test, and for those we do a blind rating, blind scoring of these tests, generally done by 2 different people. So again, I mean, don't stress out. Prepare, look at the job description, look at the qualifications, look at the areas that will be covered, and prepare yourselves by reading a little bit on what we do so that you can respond to these questions. Similarly, for the competency-based interview or for the we're now doing these proctored interviews where you come on video and you're asked to respond to a set of questions on video on the spot, and you're given a certain amount of time. My recommendation is breathe a deep breath, no stress. Make sure that you remain focused and that you respond to the questions. If you have a little bit of hesitation or need a little bit of time, you can take that. And the same thing applies to the competency-based interviews. We always advertise jobs with the competencies that we will be looking for. If you go to Inspira, you will find the definition of this competency and what it means. So for example, if we say, teamwork is one of the competencies or leadership is one of the competencies, there's a set of indicators that we will be looking for. And in the interview, we will be asking you, give us an example from your past, from your recent history or professional experience, where you have faced, for example, where you have had to work with a multidisciplinary team. There's a set of indicators that the panelists will be looking for in your question. So make sure you prepare with those examples. Don't come to an interview, thinking you can wing it, because you can't. Even the most eloquent, most, self-confident person cannot wing those. So prepare your questions and be ready for them. We will also ask you difficult questions, maybe to test whether or not you're too stubborn, or if you're, someone who's inflexible and that cannot work with others. Also be prepared for those questions. Some of them are tricky. And lastly, maybe, be open to different opportunities in different places. Flexibility, I think, is key. And, I think, as I've explained in my career path, the fact that so my posts with the UN were in Beirut, Slovakia, Geneva, Kinshasa, and now Nairobi. Be prepared to move around, be flexible, don't just hang on to one place and say, this is where I want to go. Start somewhere else, and that will lead you where you want to go. I started as a P4 in Beirut, so that's a middle-age kind of middle career kind of position. I am now a D1 in Nairobi. I would not have become D1 as a director position. I would not have become a D1 if I said, I want to start in Beirut and finish in Beirut and never move out of Beirut. So I think that's my key message here. And next.
Next, please.
Oh, there, the previous one. Sorry, the QR code, please. So we have a talent outreach mailing list so the two QR codes. One of them is the talent outreach mailing list. The other one is the career fact sheet. Please take a QR code of those, join our mailing list. And what we have been doing as well is we've been conducting a series of webinars very similar to what I've done right now to explain, what is the career path, or for certain job openings, what we're looking for. So please join those, because I think that they're very targeted and enriching and will allow you to focus more your applications and less the frustrations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mireille. So I also been moved around now 4 countries already, so including Nairobi. So I've been 2 years in Nairobi, which is a wonderful place. So thank you very much for your share. So now you have listened to Mireille from the program side expert. You also listened to Jesse and Peter from the human resources part. Now you might have questions. You may have the floor. So when you raise questions, our volunteer will give you the mic, and please address that who will you want to address the question to, or any. Okay, so I see hands here. Okay, please hand the mic. And also, please go to the Teams meeting page. Technician colleague, please go to the meeting so that we can see our speaker online as well.
So my question is to Peter. Is he still with us?
Yes.
Okay, so Peter, you highlighted the employment opportunities for young professionals. What are opportunities for people who are over 40 or even over 50? I don't mean senior hires, but mid-career positions. Do you have any program for that, or are there any opportunities outside of that?
Thank you. Thank you for that question. Yes, we definitely do. We don't have a specific program for that, but we have our regular positions that require different levels of experience. So, for example, when you're applying to international positions, those are called P grade positions. We have P2 to P5, or director positions, D1 and D2. So each P grade corresponds to also a minimum amount of years required for experience. So we don't calculate that based on age, but we calculate that based on years of experience. So different grades have different levels of experience required. So we definitely do. To be honest, most of our positions actually require you to have a relatively high number of years of experience. So I definitely invite you to have a look at our employment page for our job opportunities there.
Thank you very much.
Okay, here I had another question. So then we come to the lady. Yes.
As well, Peter. Do you have works related to research, like postdocs or anything joined with universities? Something related to that field of research. Thank you.
We don't have currently any collaborations with universities, but that is something actually really worth exploring. So currently, I don't think we have that, but we of course do value in our recruitment or in the positions we do value that experience very much. So if you have a postdoc, if you have degrees, then especially in, of course, the climate change field, that is something we very much value. So I do, again, really encourage you to also have a look at our vacancies.
Thank you. So now went to this participant.
Hello, thanks for sharing your experience. My question goes to Mireille, please. So you mentioned in your talk about how in Nairobi duty stations, for example, there aren't many applicants from the Latin American region. Is it valuable to your organization to have at different duty stations people from all different regions across the world? So, for example, would you encourage applicants from Latin America to apply to stations where there aren't many Latin Americans, such as Nairobi?
Yes, very much so. It actually depends on the jobs, the profiles, and so on. But yes, we are very much so encouraging candidates from Latin America and the Caribbean, and also from Eastern Europe to apply for Nairobi-based positions.
Okay.
This is our main duty station.
Could I have a follow-up question? Sorry.
Sure.
Is there like data available on where employees from different duty stations are from available to the public, or?
Oh, this one, can I defer to Soraya, who's online?
Hi, yes. So there is information on this available. I think this may only be available for UN Secretariat, but the United Nations CEB also publishes information publicly. It may not be disaggregated by Secretariat agencies, but this information is publicly available. And then the Secretary General every fourth quarter of the year publishes a staff demographics focused on the Secretariat, including UNEP, on the breakdown of nationalities, where they're located, duty stations, etc. And it's called the UNEP, the Secretary General's report on staffing, which all of this is all available.
To that,
Thanks for your answers.
Thank you. Okay, please go ahead, please, Jesse.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to also share with all of you, because we want to talk about it more on the wider concept of the UN Common System. This part about what, each organization, what nationalities they have within their workforce, how it's reported is very different per each organization. Some organizations actually even have categorized certain nationality as underrepresented nations, so they target certain nationalities. So, for example, organizations like FAO, they have also a climate change related functions, and they do have categorizations of, let's say, nationalities that are underrepresented in the organization that they're targeting, that they wish to hire. So as we're also, of course, we would love to welcome all of your applications to only 2 of our organizations, but it's also fair to talk about it in a wider context of the UN Common System. You will notice that each organization might have different communication methods in terms of where they're targeting, or what kind of candidates, where they're from, what they would like to see in their applicant pool. So when you are looking for these opportunities, I would definitely pay attention to that. And then going also back to another point about certain duty stations that actually have let's say a less percentage of applications from a specific pool. Another thing that also comes into play is that those, let's say, what we call the hardship duty stations. So these are, let's say, duty stations such as Afghanistan or Sudan, where there are, potentially there are conflicts and so on. So there, the number of application pool is actually lower compared to, let's say, other duty stations. I think what we're also trying to share with you is that because the number of applications is actually lower, tend to be lower for those duty stations, that also provides you an entry pass for you to gain that experience within the UN Common System, then to also further increase your profile, and then to apply to different opportunities to build your career upon.
Thank you, Jesse, Sarah, and Mireille for the questions. And now we have, please go to the participant on first row. He has been raising for a few times. Thank you.
Thank you. My question about UNEP, you didn't talk about the internship for graduate students who have like field placement, which 50 hours mean 1 credit. So Peter talked about that in his organization, but you didn't mention to that. I'm talking about UNEP. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a few other programs. We do have internships, um, internship programs as well. Now, it really depends if it's for your, and here Soraya will help me out because I think that for the internship to count as credits, there needs to be a agreement that is signed between the organization and the university or not, because that we cannot do. But if we confirm you as an intern is sufficient, we do that.
No, just work 50 hours related to the program, and yeah, you get the credit.
So yes, that we have. We have an internship program. We actually, it's not a program per se. Some of the teams that need can mentor, can oversee a intern will open up internships, and it also goes through a recruitment process. It's an open process. So, for example, we cannot agree together that you're gonna do an internship with me, and we just go ahead and do it. I have to open up an internship program. There needs to be applications to that. And then if you are selected, then it qualifies. So that's how it goes. Then we have also a young professionals program. This is the second cohort that we are doing with the International United Nations Volunteer Organization. So again, we have 12 positions that were opened. It's equivalent to a P2 position. So we have 12 positions that were open. For example, we have one from last year. We have loss and damage, nature-based solutions, circular economy specialist. This year we have something on carbon markets, on green cities, on. So it depends on the topics. We will open the positions, and then those who, then it goes through a process.
Hello. You mentioned earlier the importance of fluency in English. I was wondering how important it is to have a second UNFCCC official language, because it's usually mentioned in the openings. And then a second question would be like, how, given that there's so many applicants, like how would you say that's the best way to set yourself apart from other applicants?
So on the languages, it's very advantageous to have a second language. And then actually, that's a very good question. If you take a look at, when you look at the job descriptions or job openings, you will see there's two different things. There's requirements and then there's desirables. So the requirements, if you do not meet the requirements, you will be automatically eliminated by a I don't want to say AI, but by the system. Yeah, I mean, it's almost AI, right? So you'll be automatically eliminated by the system. So the filtering process is that we will go first through the requirements, and then we will apply the desirables, and make sure, for example, if you have if you apply to a job that has French as a requirement, you will be eliminated if you don't tick the box whereby you speak French. Now, if you have French as a desirable, it depends on whether or not the hiring manager applies only the requirements or also the desirables. So in that case, it would be an asset if you speak French versus a requirement that would eliminate you if you don't speak French. Now, how to make yourself, don't do crazy things in your applications. That will not help you. But I think really be mindful when you're, be mindful. HR will also count. So for example, for positions that require 7 years experience, HR will count your experience to the month. So don't be approximative in your application, don't say, oh, I worked 5 years and 2 months in this one, so I will say 5 years. You have to be specific because those 2 months count. They will take you over the 7 years or not. So make sure that you're, accounting for all your professional experience when you're doing an application. I think there's always a motivation statement in the opening. Really I would say be genuine. That's what will make you special. Don't use AI to write your motivation statement because we will know. We run it through. And we have a way to check. Don't use platitudes. I think I'm the best candidate for this. Really speak from your heart. I think that comes through and we feel it. When we're reading the applications, we really can tell where's the drive coming from.
Could I add to that maybe?
Yes, please.
Yes, because I think for us as well, that the bit that I highlighted about achievements, I think to set yourself apart is really also about knowing what is in that vacancy announcement, studying that, taking that, and when you mention your key achievements in your application form, link it to that, link it to what is asked in the vacancy announcement list, link it to that, make it targeted, because of course, if you've worked in a certain role for 5 years, you probably have a ton of achievements, but then zoom in on those that are relevant to this job based on what you've learned from that vacancy announcement, and that will really set you apart. In addition to the language question as well, so you have the required languages, which then, you are disqualified for if you don't have those. But then if you have additional languages, in that evaluation step where HR and the hiring manager are that's a long listing, that happens based on a scoring system. So for example, for a lot of roles, that will mean that you get just more points for speaking more languages. So in that way, we reward that in terms of more points. And of course, the highest scoring candidates will move on to the next stage. So that's the way we sort of reward also additional languages. So thank you.
Can I? Sorry, your question has triggered so many thoughts. I'm a hiring manager and I do a lot of recruitment. I can tell if a candidate has copied a previous application into my job opening. Not that I'm going to go to the system and I can tell, but I can tell from how, how much it corresponds to the job description, to the desirables, to what we've put into the job. So I would really, it's a lot of effort, I know, but I would encourage you, if you want to copy paste your application, at least take the time to tailor it to the job because we can tell.
Can I just also add from an HR perspective, if you've never applied to a UN position before, even as senior, you may be, mid-management level, and perhaps English or French or whatever specific language is perhaps not your first language or the language you feel most comfortable in, there are 3 questions that you can use to help, which is, put in the motivational letter, why am I interested in this particular position? You're talking to the hiring manager. So in this case, you're talking to Jesse or you're talking to Mireille. Why am I interested in applying to this position? Why should you, the hiring manager, hire me? And how can my work experience contribute to Mireille's team or Jesse's team? So those are the 3 key things. And do not, you don't have to go on and on and on. And then in terms of the achievements and work experience, some of the key things is your work experience, you highlight it in the infinitive. I supervise 3 legal specialists in administrative law. I monitor and evaluate water sanitation projects. Those are my duties. Your achievements is I organize workshops for stakeholders, and they have to be in the past tense. You should use numbers and time spans. I organized 3 workshops per month for 40, water sanitation, extension agents. in 4 provinces within 6 months. And then also it helps to include the impact of that achievement. I organize 3 workshops per month for 40 water sanitation specialists in 4 provinces within 6 months, resulting in what resulted from that? Resulting in the ability of these 4 provinces to be able to So those are just some key things that may help you get started with that. Thank you.
Thank you. I think this is like a $10,000 worth question and answer. Very useful. Okay, we go to this.
There was a gentleman also in the back. He's been crazy.
Oh, okay. Will be next one. Thank you.
So my first question is to all the speakers who had maybe relocation experience, because I knew it will be a challenge, situation, not only impacting yourself, but also the, families, like parents or maybe partner and kids. So what is your maybe experience which help you to overcome this, obstacles, and what is specific efforts from the organization to support the employee who can, make life easier? Because I had also 3 years relocation experience and had a lot of troubles. Yeah, eventually overcome, but anyway. And maybe second question, curious to Jessie, that why you left the organization in the past and what makes you move back? So that's the second question. Thank you.
Okay. So maybe because you said my name, I think I can start off. So yes, indeed, a lot of people ask me that question now, and I think I'm a little bit similar to other speakers that are on this call, because in the United Nations Common System, so there are many organizations. One of the things in terms of developing your professional capacity and then also developing your profile is indeed about moving on and then getting different experiences, different organizations, and working in different roles and so on. I mean, even let's take HR as an example. Even we say HR, there's so many different disciplines within HR that you can actually gain further experiences by moving to another organization and also getting to experience the different duty stations and different organizational culture. So when I moved on, which was right after the Paris Agreement was adopted, it was a difficult decision, but indeed I had moved on to UNICEF, so another organization where the mandate was very interesting, and it was completely a new job profile within HR. So indeed, what I was able to do is to gain different experiences and get different skills and knowledge. And then when I saw that the opportunity of chief of HR came out at the UN climate change, it only made sense for me to apply and then to come back, because then it allowed me to apply all these different experiences that I developed over the 8 years that I had been out of this organization. So that is actually one of the reasons that I moved around, and it is something also encouraged within the UN Common System. The UN Common System also gives incentives for what we call mobility. We even give financial incentives for people who move to different organizations, different duty stations, because what they want to see, indeed, and I'm not saying that one is better over the other. Some people prefer having a steady career path in one organization, one duty station, and that is perfectly fine. That is, basically it suits everybody's what they aspire to. But it is indeed one option within the UN Common System to explore different aspects of your career path by moving to another organization, and there are incentives that come along with it. So that's actually the reason why I moved around, and of course it made sense for me to come back. Now, going back to your questions about what support mechanism do you have in having let's say an expat lifestyle. Like Peter said, I think during his presentation, there are financial assistance and so on in terms of moving, shipment, travel, settling your family in, settling yourself in. So there are financial tangibles that are provided as part of the packages for your move. But it is indeed true. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything, not only for you and everybody in the room. It is a difficult life. Expat life is extremely difficult. Of course, your children will have to go to an international school. They'll have to get used to going to a different, getting used to a different customs and in the new country. Your spouse will definitely go through challenges because running errands or doing, finding job for themselves might be a little bit difficult. As you said, finding time for you to be able to go back to your aging parents. I have that problem myself. Does the UN support me in some ways? Yes, of course. They do extend visa and work permits and a residency support for your family members that are eligible to be installed in the duty station. For internationally recruited staff members, we do provide something called a home leave, which is granted every 2 years, whereby the travel is paid for you and your family to go back to your home country every 2 years. So there are some assistance there, sure. But does that eliminate all the challenges? Probably not. It kind of tries to balance them out. So ultimately speaking, what is very important for you is that you find that vacancy announcement where you think that job is very interesting. You are going to have to find what does that, how am I going to make my life work in that location? You're going to have to find the things that allow you to get used to that location and their culture while balancing in terms of requirements for, for example, going back to your home country to attend to urgent family needs. And I think that's where things like flexible work arrangement and so on will come into play. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. Any further comment on this, please?
Yeah, I think that's actually a very good question. And having, moved around quite a bit, it's not I don't know, maybe it is, maybe it's not. But sometimes there's a tendency to romanticize working for the UN and so on. I actually ended up divorcing because my husband did not want to follow me around, and he was like, I could have become a tenure track professor by now. He was in academia, so he said, by now I could have become a tenure track professor, and here I am following you around the world in places where I can't find a job, where I can't teach, where universities are complicated, this and that. So it is a choice that will impact your your personal life, and I think it's a choice that you also need to make together with your spouse, right, or with your family, in full cognizance of the fact, going from Nairobi to Argentina takes some 28 hours and costs some $3,000, if not more. Yes, the organization will, we have a home leave that is paid to the staff member and his family and the family every 2 years. So that's a flight back home to make sure that staff members can continue retaining their connection to their home, their family, their country, so on. But, if you have an aging parent and that's going to having health problems on a recurrent basis, there's flexible work arrangements, yes, whereby you with your supervisor can agree on certain arrangements for you to work from back home. But you're going to have to pay for the cost of the ticket. You're going to have to do the back and forth yourself. You're going to have to, take your annual leave in order to cover for that. So it's not it's a choice that needs to be made in full cognizance of the complexities that come with it as well.
Thank you.
That gentleman.
Yeah,
and
that
then there's
gentleman.
that lady over there at the corner. She's been raising
Okay.
her hand with the-
Thanks.
Thank you very much. I'm really interested in having some kind of a glimpse into the structure. You mentioned that you started as a P4 and today you are a D1. So what's it like? What are the steps? Do you grow from P4 to P3 to P2 to D7 to D, whatever? And then what guidance could you give for people who have some experience, just to be able to say, okay, based on my experience, these are the opportunities I should be looking for within maybe P3, D7, whatever it is. Thank you.
Sure. So my trajectory, I entered, as I said, in the UN system at a P4 level. I relocated to a different duty station at a P4 level. Then my next move was at a P5 level. So I'll give you the details. I was P4 with UNDP in Beirut, moved to P4 in Slovakia with UNDP, moved to UNOPS in Geneva as P5, moved to Kinshasa with UNDP as P5, and then joined UNEP at the D1 level. So the moves were both geographic moves and also across organizations. And the move doesn't happen automatically. I applied every time I was, so for example, so the Beirut to Slovakia was a relocation of the office. The Slovakia to Geneva, I applied to a different job. The Geneva to Kinshasa, I went on a detail assignment, which is 1 year, whereby UNDP and myself agreed that it's a temporary relocation to Kinshasa. And then I reapplied for that job and I got it, stayed there 5 years, and then applied for a job and came to UNEP. It's not like you move automatically, I want to move to that place or to that place. There is a little bit of, there's something that we call temporary job opening or temporary job assignment or detail assignment. So you can have those, but each time, you don't take it for granted. I'm going to grow from this to that. And when I joined UNEP, I actually had some colleagues who were reaching retirement age at a P3 grade and having done that job for 17 years, for example. So there's a different trajectory for different people, but I think it really depends on what brings you satisfaction in life and whether you feel like you're stalling or if you want to do something different. At mid-career level, I would say that would be start from P4, around P4. It also depends on whether or not you would like to have managerial responsibilities or not. At the P5 level, you're expected to supervise staff, you're expected to run budgets, you're expected to do a lot of HR and a lot of management. At the P4, P3 level, it's much more focused on substantive issues. It also depends on whether or not the job opening is for a specific project and a specific, time bound, budget bound, and kind of technically bound position, or if it's for a more open position. For example, I currently have a position, 2 P4 positions. One of them is adaptation policy, and the other one is this is in Nairobi. The other one is in Laos. It's on for a chief technical advisor on a GCF funded project. So this one, if you apply for it, it's 5 years. It's to deliver that project. It's finite and it ends there. So really, it's absolutely have a look at the job descriptions. And I would say, but that's maybe my experience. For example, when I moved from Geneva to Kinshasa, I forfeited. I moved from a relatively permanent and stable job to a position that was a 5-year position on a specific project with a specific budget, with a specific objective. I found it very rewarding because it was working with the Minister of Finance as his advisor, running a $250 million fund for the DRC. Some may want to have more stability in there. So really look at the types of jobs and the job description, and it has those details in general.
Thank you. So please, the floor given to, lady. Thank you. So, and also in terms of time, we will take after this question, 2 more questions. Thank you.
Hi, thank you for this wonderful event. I just had a quick question. In terms of work experience, what if you don't have work experience in this field? How can you appeal yourself in the best way possible?
Yeah, what do you mean you don't have work experience and you're applying for something?
Well, more kind of like if you're coming out of like you're a student, you're just coming out of college, and let's say like you did something in a different field, and it's not specifically like environmental policy or environmental work. Like, how can you appeal yourself in the best way possible?
I would say do something else in between. Try to find something. I mean, the gentleman who left asked about internships. Try to do an internship, try to go for private sector, try to work with an NGO, try to acquire that experience. We don't have a lot. I think our entry level is P2, which is the HR people will say, I think it's 3 years experience, 2 years experience minimum. 2. Yes. So you have to do what you can to acquire that experience outside of the system so that you can apply to the system.
Okay,
Yes,
thank
and
you.
could I
But we
just add
also
maybe-
just sorry,
sorry.
Peter, just a second, because we also have, we have jobs that we have lawyer jobs, we have economist jobs, we have communication jobs. So, I mean, look at the whole spectrum. Sorry, Peter, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. No, just to add to what you said, I think internship experience we do count. We count it at a reduced rate, but we do count it. So if you have an internship, that is already very helpful. You also mentioned that like if you don't have any experience in a relevant field, that potentially would be an issue. Like we do want some relevance to the roles, of course, that we advertise. But yeah, like internship experience is already very valuable for a P2, for example.
Yeah, and if I can add one more thing, if I may. In fact, I know exactly what you're talking about because I started in the UN system 14 years ago, and that's exactly how I felt. I had zero experience in the UN and whatsoever. I just came out of my master's program. What I had done is actually I had worked for a private sector, but then also I took on a consultancy, or very short term, what we call the non-staff or affiliate opportunity in a UN organization, because one of the things that I think a lot of people also miss out on is that there are, of course, staff opportunities that provide different, let's say, job security or benefits and entitlements and so on. But there are quite a lot of, let's say, short-term opportunities that perhaps will allow you to get the foot in the door and then build that experience and enrich your profile, but also you get to know how the business works. And then that allows you to apply for a let's say a staff position. So I definitely also recommend you to check out websites like impactpool.org. Those are, let's say, compilation websites that actually not only takes UN, but also IGOs and NGOs, all of their staff and affiliate personnel, short-term positions. And it's a compilation website that actually you can check to see what kind of opportunities are there and then build your application for that.
Thank you.
Can I just also add just one quick thing? So UNEP, we have quite a lot of UN volunteers. I know UNFCCC is starting a program. I was actually a UN volunteer at UNFCCC, and that really impacted me. So UNEP, we have quite a lot of specialist positions, which is at the moment most of them requires 3 years. But now UNV has these modalities where it's UNV Youth. There's no age limit, but it's called UNV Youth, where the minimum work experience, depending on the position, is 1 month to under 3 years. So I would encourage you to look at that because the UN system deploys a lot of UNVs, and they actually, the youth modality allows you to gain that experience within the UN system, gain your network. Now, once you get there, you may still not be ready for a staff position or the staff position that you want. UNV specialist allows you to actually contribute your expertise that you have if you came from the private sector, if you're trying to check to see if you're transitioning into the UN career might work for you, that's also an option. And I think it's not a retention rate, but there are quite a lot of UN staff members that did start as UNVs. Thanks.
Thank you. I see one more questions here. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the wonderful session. I have three quick technical questions. First is when is the retirement age? And the second is that when you apply for the position, I think most of the job are contract, right? So do you know how many years you'll be hired when you apply? And the third, I think UNFCCC introduced about fellowship. Would you elaborate more about fellowship? Is this like a non-pay internship, or this fellowship post will be posted on a website? Thank you very much.
Want to go first?
I don't know. Retirement depends. No,
Okay,
retirement
so
is
we
for
will-
technical HR.
We will want to ask our HR colleague online if we want to answer.
Yeah, I can answer the retirement age. So for those of you that actually enter any UN staff positions now from today onward, your retirement age is 65. That is basically the because in terms of we have for the UN Secretariat or any UN, we have something called a mandatory age of separation, which is until what age can you be hired as a staff, which is 65 for everybody. But there's a different rules for the pension fund for the UN, which is your normal retirement age. But that is also 65 for anybody who joins today onward. And then on the fellowship program, Peter, I defer to you.
Thank you. Yes, the fellowship program, we have two different ones. Both are for early and mid-career professionals. So they are fully paid roles and are sponsored by member states. And they are for minimum one, but extendable up to 2 years. And the details are we have a specific page on the UNFCCC employment site. There's a tab fellowships where you can find all the detailed information on this. And also that's specifically where we advertise fellowship program positions.
Now I forgot. Oh, the duration of the contracts. So as I was mentioning, we have different types of positions. You will see in the job advertisement, you will see that most of the time we advertise as 1 year renewable. Now, for example, as I was mentioning on this Laos case, the job description is very clear that this is about implementing a project, and the project is 5 years. And so that would be the maximum term of that appointment or that contract. And I wanted to just mention, in the international UN volunteers, I once had on a project in Yemen, I had a phenomenal irrigation engineer from India who came to Yemen as an international volunteer after his retirement. So he had completed his career in India and decided that he wanted to, contribute to the world. He wanted to live in Yemen. He was a phenomenal engineer, and so he applied for a UNV position. So they're not to think that the volunteers position are only for career startups or for early stage. It's also at any age.
Thank you. I see no more hand. And then we are right at the time. So before the volunteer coming to kick us out. So thank you very much again for your participation, and thank you all the speakers. And now we have give you the guidance and information for your path. So, but still the path will be walked by yourself. But we are here for you. Welcome to follow our website, our account, and then apply. Okay, thank you. The event finished.
Thank you, everyone.